Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. On Monday, May the 3rd in the year of our Lord 2021, I will tell you that Jim Garrity is coming up later in the hour. And as a Jets fan, his Super Bowl was over the weekend, the NFL draft. I know that feeling. For many years, the Browns Super Bowl was the NFL draft. But now we just looked at it as we're filling in pieces of our Super Bowl team. I'm joined by Jake Sherman, who I do not know if he roots for the Jets or the Washington Football Club. Jake Sherman is a Punchbowl News editor-in-chief. You should get their morning newsletter, which is in front of me from punchbowlnews.com. What are you, Jake? Are you a Redskins, Washington Football Club fan?
I grew up a Jets fan because that's what my dad was.
Ooh.
Now I know, but listen, I am agnostic about the NFL, to be honest with you. And I know that's kind of like sacrilege as an American, but I have enough on my mind with the Nationals and my GW Colonials basketball team that I don't have room for anybody else in my heart right now.
Oh, you're a Colonials guy. You know, I went to church yesterday, and for the first time, I had a political conversation at my church in the Beltway. A fellow was wearing a Nationals mask, and he came over to talk to me and said, we don't agree on much, but we agree on Major League Baseball really stepped in it with their moving of the All-Star game. And we talked a bit about that. I won't go to a game this year because of that. That Commissioner Manfred is the worst commissioner in my memory, and we've had some bad ones. What is the data on that, other than the poll from our friends at Axios that showed Major League Baseball's favorability plummeting with Republicans after that bonehead move?
I don't know what the long-term impacts of it are. I don't know. I mean, I know that clearly they've upset the business community in Atlanta, which was expecting a large scale infusion of human beings for their businesses. But I've been saying this for a long time. I think that large newspapers, and I'm able to say this because I'm no longer at a large news organization, should probably devote somebody, a reporter full time, to deal with politics and sports. I know people say they want politics out of their sports, but they're inextricable at this point. I mean, every single league has political issues all the time, and it should be covered because these are multi-billion-dollar industries.
Did you hear Roger Goodell announce during the NFL draft? You're not an NFL guy, but 30 million people watched the draft on Thursday night. That's bigger than the GOP debates in which I participated. It's bigger than any television event. It's it was three times the early number for the Oscars. I gather they upgraded it. Okay, it's a sports show, and it was not political, Jake. That's why it was great. It's just young men achieving their dreams and lots of schmaltz. I mean, it's just a schmaltz fest. But it was great. It was terrific. Let's get to the Punchbowl newsletter, because I have a column in the Washington Post this morning about what I call season one in the hunt for a red November, which is the GOP presidential nomination. I've identified 5 in the top tier, but the Punchbowl begins with someone who I don't think is in tier 1 yet. May not get there. Marco Rubio. Why did you profile Marco Rubio in the 3rd installment of What Do They Want? What I call the hunt for red November, you call What Do They Want?
Yeah, we've done Karen Bass and Jim Jordan, 2 very big up-and-comers. Obviously, Jordan's not an up-and-comer, and Bass is already established, so maybe neither of them are up-and-comers, but big figures in Congress. What we try to do is we try to strip everything down to its core. What do they want, meaning what are they aiming for? What do they want next in their career? And Marco Rubio is at a crossroads of sorts. I mean, he has a big Senate race next year, a Senate race that he's probably a pretty heavy favorite in this point in a state that I think, as you and I have talked about, Hugh, is trending more and more red as the years go on. But will he run for president in 2024? Will he run for Senate Republican leadership, where he'd be an interesting candidate for a lot of people? And he's not shown that he's terribly interested in the leadership track in the Senate, but it is a viable option for him.
Oh, sure it is. Now, Ruthless Podcast. You listen to that since it's the millennial choice?
I do.
And so, they refer to the free state of Florida. Smug and Josh Holmes refer to the free state of Florida, which it's becoming the new Texas. Florida is the new Texas, the place to which Republicans retreat and reestablish defensible lines and then move out again with DeSantis. How do the big 3 in Florida get along? Ron DeSantis, Rick Scott, and Marco Rubio.
I think there's a lot of tension there, to be honest with you. I think that, I think there are 3. I don't want to say anything out of school without having, run it down accurately and reporting it. So I just want to be careful what I say. But listen, I mean, there's obviously a lot of tension. Rick Scott was a governor, right? And Ron DeSantis is the governor. Ron DeSantis came out from the House of Representatives, became governor. So, and he's gotten a lot of plaudits and some criticism along the way in his handling of the coronavirus. But he's certainly got the attention of a lot of people. And it is, I mean, I don't think there's any other state in America, you could correct me, that has a trio like that in one party, 3 statewide elected officials that are just so in such heavy limelight. I would say they're probably the only 3.
I mean, it may be the best represented state in terms of national talent. All 3 are very talented individuals. 2 governors, 1 2-time senator, and a former House of Representatives in Florida speaker. They know what they're doing. And Marco is so eloquent, and Rick Scott is doggedly on message, and Ron DeSantis knows how to be combative constructively. It's going to be quite a remarkable. So I want to turn with you to my Hunt for Red November column, Jake. I've identified a tier 1, and in it I put DeSantis and Pompeo and Chris Christie and Tom Cotton, and then I added Tim Scott after last week, and everybody else is in tier 2. Of course, that's going to change. We're 1/3 of the way through season 1 in the Hunt for Red November, but what do you think of those top 5?
I think that makes sense. I think people underestimate Cotton. I really do. I think Cotton is probably has the best. It might be the smartest in the sense of has the best organization, the best organizational mind. Is just somebody who understands what it might take. I just get the sense that he's very methodical, as you know, because you know him very well. You've had him on the show about 7 trillion times. But yeah, I generally agree with that.
Well, what I didn't know about Senator Cotton, I sent him a little note saying, "How did I not know this?" And he sent me back an emoji shrugging arms. And he got onto Judiciary. He had already been on Armed Services and Intel, and he kept those 2 places, and he negotiated himself a seat on Judiciary. Well, as you know, Jake, that's the highest profile committee every time there's a retirement from the Supreme Court. That's when America tunes in, and they will tune in when I think Justice Breyer steps down as expected in June.
Yeah, and well, I don't know if he's going to step down. I know that's expected, but yeah, and people. I mean, Cotton is so steeped in the armed services and intel stuff that people forget, obviously, that he's an attorney who graduated from Harvard Law School and knows that realm just as well as anybody else as well. So absolutely. And by the way, going back to Rubio has a lot of high profile committee memberships as well, including Intel. So I mean, where he's the ranking Republican or the vice chair, as it's called in that setting. So yeah, very interesting kind of set of responsibilities for those 2 guys.
Very quickly, the Punchbowl News made a rare misstep this morning, but I'll let you defend it. Lincoln Project puts up a McConnell versus Trump ad on Fox in Palm Beach. All right, the Lincoln Project is in ruins. It's burned to the ground, and there are a couple of people in the basement with $10, and they bought an ad on a local Fox affiliate, and you amplified it, Jake. That is a corrupt and currently being sued adverse work, hostile environment allegations are flying around, allegations of looting it. Steve Schmidt's gone into hiding. Why would you amplify such an obviously gimmicky ad?
Well, and I'll answer this as quickly as I possibly can, because taking that all into consideration, something that we do that we always ask for the buy amount, so we understand how large the ad is. Listen, I think it's an ad that is an interesting ad, obviously acknowledging all of the missteps that the Lincoln Project has had. And listen, it's meant to get a reaction out of Trump. We thought our readers and viewers, I guess, should see it because we thought the editorial itself was interesting. But you're right. I mean, they are obviously in some huge trouble.
You see, I think it's the equivalent of running a lunatic group from the right's ad at this point, given how pervasively the corruption at that place has been exposed. I just wouldn't amplify anything. But the rest of the newsletter is very interesting, and I want to get to the Liz Cheney stuff. I'm a big fan of Liz Cheney, big fan of Liz Cheney, as I am of the vice president, the former second lady, and her sister. I'm the only one I think that's interviewed every member of the Cheney family. Is it possible the Republicans would be so dumb as to throw out Liz Cheney from the leadership?
Yes. I don't know that it will happen, but it is possible. Cheney is out of step with the vast majority of House Republicans at this point. And I interviewed her in Orlando last week at the Republican retreat, and I asked her about her primary, and she said she would be happy to campaign on her vote to impeach Trump. That pissed a lot of people off, to put it bluntly, and that comes after obviously a ton of travails for Cheney in the conference. So listen, I mean, here's the core of the question. Is the Republican Party about Donald Trump at this point? And yes, it largely is for House Republicans.
Well,
Cheney
you
is
and I
not about
disagree
that.
on this. We'll have to talk about it next week. I don't think it is. I think that's the Beltway view of the party. But my view of the party is based on 400 affiliates, and I don't think it's exclusively about, he's a large part of it, but I don't think it's exclusively about Trump, and I think Liz Cheney has a huge role in it. We'll see if you're right about that. Jake Sherman, thank you, my friend, from punchbowlnews.com.